Hello and welcome to the day's episode of Focus Atlanta. I am your host, Keisha Lancelin. Thanks so much for tuning in with us this Sunday afternoon. In our first segment, we're going to talk a little bit about good girl syndrome. I'm here with Diane Lang. Thank you for making time for us today. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Give me a little history. Why do you think that we need to take hold of and learn more about good girl syndrome? And what is that really?
So good girl syndrome is very similar to being a people pleaser. And as a recovering people pleaser, I can actually say this from personal experience as well. It is when we feel this desire to make sure everybody around us is happy, to make everybody a priority, even at, the expense of our own mental health, where we're feeling stressed, anxious, resentful, or bitter. We really want to make sure everybody is happy, even again when we're not.
When we think about women, we think about mothers, we think about parents, we think
Right.
about caregivers, and sometimes it feels like they're not giving that same care to themselves. Are there any tips? Are there any things that we could do, even though we are of that nurturing nature? Are there any things that we could do to get better at taking care of ourselves?
Absolutely. A lot of us were raised where we never saw self-care in our home. We never even heard the word. And you're right, we were raised to be nurturers, especially women. So we're so used to taking care of everybody else, but we don't take care of ourselves. I actually had a client a few weeks ago who said to me, "Am I supposed to be on the priority list?" She didn't even realize that she should be a priority. And the first thing you want to do is really thinking about self-care for yourself, because you can't give what you don't have. And we don't want to burn out. So if we're not taking care of ourselves holistically, then how are we going to be there for the people we love and care for, both personally and professionally? So self-care should be preventative, and it should be daily. And it should just be even just your basic needs, even just thinking about, are you getting enough sleep? Are you drinking enough water? What are you eating? What does your diet look like? And making sure you get exercise, which is a great natural way to de-stress. And making sure that your basic needs are met could be one of the first ways you do self-care. And it's also great because you get to role model that for your kids, which is another way to show them that self-care is important.
I've got to say, I had a light bulb moment just then while you were talking, because listen, I was in my mind, I was thinking, yes, at home, being the wife, being the mother. When you
Right.
mentioned work, I had a whole nother epiphany going on. I had not even realized that so often many of us have these same bad habits at the workplace. We're doing everything,
Yeah.
we're taking care of it, like, really, you just opened my eyes.
Well, it's so easy because it becomes our second nature to take care of everybody else, that no matter where we are, both professionally or personally, we tend to just become that nurturer and caregiver. And there's nothing wrong with being a nurturer or caregiver. We're not saying that. We're saying to be mindful of how it makes you feel and not to overdo it, where at the expense that you're constantly feeling stressed or anxious or worried or fearful, that it makes your immune system go down and your stress levels go up.
Well, in terms of things that we can do, is there a website? Do you have a place that we can go and maybe get some tips? The other thing women need are baby steps, because again,
Yes.
because we are in such a nurturing, mode on a consistent basis, to throw something, big at us is like, takes us over the moon.
Yes.
So, is there a website where we could learn small tips, little things to get us started so that we're doing better on a more consistent basis?
Yes, if you can go to my website, I have a lot of tips and tools, which is just dianelang.org, or my latest book, which is called Worthy, where I actually go into how I have felt unworthy, have been a people pleaser, I've had the good girl syndrome, where I was just looking for acceptance and approval from others, had that fear of people being mad at me, and really had to make the change myself. And one of the ways I think it's important, and I write about it in the book, is to really figure out how unworthiness or the good girl syndrome shows up for you. Because it shows up for everybody in different ways, but imposter syndrome at the workplace, perfectionism, both personally, professionally, looking for acceptance and approval from others when it's an internal job. Those are just some of the ways it shows up. And that might be one of the first steps is looking at how does it show up for me?
Thank you so much for making time for us today. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right, ladies, we can do this. We can do a little bit better about the self-care aspects of our lives. So often we spend so much time taking care of everyone else, and then, we pay the price. So take the opportunity to go to the website, learn a little bit more, and stay tuned to more Focus Atlanta. We'll be right back.